to our heart and mind, the most generous and kind, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, has stated that adorn your gatherings by reciting Salat al-Nabi upon me, as this will be nur for you on the day of judgment, inshallah. So in love and devotion to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, let's send durood sharif upon him, inshallah. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Now, Allah Azza wa Jal has truly said in the Holy Quran, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهُ وَاللَّعِبُ. Translation: and this life of the world is nothing but a sport and play. وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ. And undoubtedly, the home of the hereafter, necessarily that is the true life indeed. لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. What a good thing it is if they but knew. Allah Azza wa Jal in this surah Al-Ankabut, ayah number 64, is talking about how the world that we live in is nothing and quote but sport and play. And undoubtedly the home of the hereafter, our end abode, is the true life indeed. So we can take lessons from just this Quranic ayah, that the true life is the hereafter. Which one should we prepare for? The one that's in the hereafter, not the one that we're currently living in. There's many ahadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that go on to explain about this world, this dunya, and having love for this dunya. The Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke the truth and warned us many times. There are many ahadith just in this book, which is a short ahadith book. There's 6 of just about the world and its reality compared to what we live in. One narration from Hazrat Abu Musa radiallahu ta'ala anhu. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أحب دنياه أضر بآخرته. Meaning, whoever loves this world, such a love which is predominant to the love of Allah Azza wa Jalla, His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he injures his hereafter. وَمَنْ أَحَبَّ آخِرَتَهُ أَضَّرَّ بِدُنْيَهُ فَأَثِرُّ مَا يَبْقَى عَلَى مَا يَفْنِي. Meaning, and whoever loves his hereafter, he incurs loss in this world. So prefer what shall remain over what shall perish. Meaning, prefer the hereafter, because that will be forever, instead of what will perish, which will be this world. Another hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Sahl ibn Sa'id, meaning from Hazrat Sahl ibn Sa'id radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he reports that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has truly said, لو كانت الدنيا تعديل عند الله جناح بعوضة ما سقى كافرا منها شربا. Had the value of the world been equivalent to even just the wing of a mosquito, just a wing of the mosquito, in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal, He would not have given the infidel even a drop to drink from it. That's how worthless this dunya is. If it was just a wing of a mosquito of worth to Allah Azza wa Jal in His blessed court, then no non-Muslims would have anything to drink in this world. That shows how worthless this dunya is, because how well treated are the non-Muslims in this world as well. Allah Azza wa Jal graces them and shows how worthless this dunya is. Another hadith narrated by Hazrat Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has stated, ألا إن الدنيا ملعونة ملعون ما فيها إلا ذكر الله وما ولاه وعالم أو متعلم. Listen attentively, he said to his followers. The world is cursed, and cursed is what lies in it, except for the remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal and those things which are beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal, or a teacher of the sacred knowledge, or the student of the sacred knowledge. Again, clear proof that this world, this dunya is cursed, and yet we have so much love for this dunya. The hadith don't stop there. And Abi Hurairah قال Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Hazrat Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said, الدنيا سجن المؤمن وجنة الكافر. That the dunya is a prison for a believer, but it is heaven for a non-Muslim. How clear-cut can you get for a hadith? So clear-cut, so precise to the point that this world is a prison for a true believer, and yet it's the best play area for a non-Muslim. And on the final hadith that I wanted to mention, and Hudhayfa قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, Hazrat Huzaifa radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he reported that he heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, يقول حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة. Love of the world, love of the dunya is the root of every single sin. So as you could probably tell, today's topic is about having love for the world. And having love for the world is one of the diseases of the heart. It is one of the diseases and sins of the heart that take away the human from Allah Azza wa Jal. Take them further away from His Habib Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Take them further away from this religion. This book I showed last week, Purification of the Heart. Again, another chapter in here is to have love for the world. And Imam Mawlud, he wrote a poem. And this specific part of the poem, verses 43 to 53, are about the love of this world. But it's a bit different to what you would expect. It's not just showing you how the dunya can be such an evil place and how we should get rid of the dunya. But the dunya is also help for us in the deen. The dunya also helps us because we are living here, and that's how we will reach the hereafter, inshallah, by living in this dunya. But it's what we make from this dunya. We leave our desires and we take what is good from the dunya, meaning worship Allah Azza wa Jal, do the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, and that's how we reach the hereafter, inshallah. So the poem starts, realize also that blameworthy love of this world is what is solely for the benefit of the self. It does not include desiring it so that others are not burdened by your needs, and so that you are secure from dependence upon other people. Nor does it include desiring it as provision for the next world. So it's quite clear here what Imam Mawlud is talking about. That love of the world is only for benefit of oneself, meaning greedy benefit. Someone wants to gain wealth, for example. That's the one we use always nowadays. Someone wants to gain wealth. Why? Because they want to show off. They just want money. That's all they want. Money so they can spend it lavishly, and then they forget the zikr of Allah. But there's already 3 examples given by Imam Mawlud how loving the dunya in a certain way can help towards our hereafter. Indeed, love of this world falls under the 5 categories of legal rulings, such that it's based on what it helps one to achieve. If the love of something of this world is for the purpose of helping one achieve something prohibited, then it is also prohibited. As such, censuring the world is only for those things that do not advance one's salvation. Thus, for these reasons, censuring is restricted to its ardent love. Indeed, the best of the creation, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, prohibited cursing the world as well. Things are praised or censured only by virtue of what results from them, like healing or disease. Therefore, what is obtained for one's physical necessities by means of wealth or worldly position is beneficial. Still, some scholars scorn the accumulation of great wealth, feeling the risk of transgressing the bounds of permissibility. One who earns wealth for the purpose of vainglorious competition is reckoned as amongst those who perpetrate enormities. Love of praise for what one has not accomplished is caused by desiring other than Allah Azza wa Jal. Isa alayhi salam stated that the world is a bridge. The world is a bridge, the dunya is a bridge. So pass over it to the next world. But don't try and build up that bridge because it will perish. Love of this world is considered blameworthy, but only if we take it in the wrong way. There's many ways, the 5 categories that having love of the world falls in. That is prohibited, that is disliked, that is permissible, that is liked, and that is wajib upon you, it's necessary upon you. Necessary that we have to love this world. Why? Because again, it's a creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. We cannot disrespect this world because that means disrespecting the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal, disrespecting Allah Azza wa Jal's work. One is what it's like to leave the world and its desires. Leave the world and its desire that is given to you. leave gambling, leave drinking alcohol, leave fornication, leave any desire that your body desires. That's how the awliya ikram became so high and pious. You just have to look at the example of Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, Ghaus Pak, how he disowned his own body and the whole world and just wanted Allah Azza wa Jal. He stopped eating for a year, he stopped drinking for a year, and then stopped eating and drinking for a year, just for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. Didn't have no love for this world because he knew with his spiritual insight what the world is to a person. Just destruction. But the world is how we get into the hereafter. If we take the good things from this world, if we worship, or if we come to the masjids and make them witness of us reading namaz 5 times a day, if we come to the masjids when there's gathering, make the masjid witness of our gatherings, inshallah. Spend money, gain wealth, but spend it in the way of Allah. Help the less fortunate, give your zakat. This is how we get closer to Allah. That's how love for this world helps you in the hereafter. When someone wants to get famous, there's different intentions as well. Someone wants to get famous just because they want to be famous so people know them. Again, that falls into the wrong category. But to fall into the correct category, someone wants to become famous so that they can guide people towards Allah. That's a good intention, and that helps for the hereafter. So there's 2 different aspects when it comes to love of the world. But we're talking about the bad one here. That only for yourself. Not for the pleasure of Allah, not for helping other people. And that's where the categories come in. Allah, He created this world as a means for us to gain His pleasure. If there was not this world, then how would we gain His pleasure? We wouldn't be here. So Allah has blessed us with this world. And it's a blessing that we are able to walk on it. And keep walking on it, and inshallah we'll try our hardest and best to please Him. Because that's what we are commanded to do. That's what we were born for. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He created us. And the work of all the prophets, alayhim salam, of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was to teach us that this dunya is not the life worth living. This is not the life worth living. And again, explained by the hadith that I mentioned before. Now there's a story at the time of Isa alayhi salam, and he had a follower following him. And Isa alayhi salam, he had 3 pieces of bread. He had 3 pieces of bread, and he wanted to split them evenly between him and his companion. But his companion had other ideas, unfortunately, and he had taken the 3rd piece of bread secretly, whilst splitting obviously in half, one for Isa alayhi salam, one for the other companion, but the companion took the 3rd one secretly. So when Isa alayhi salam, he saw that there was no 3rd piece of bread, he alayhi salam, he asked the man, where's the 3rd piece of bread gone? Where's it gone? The man told a lie. He goes, I do not know. Even though he had taken it just before. So Isa alayhi salam, he did not say anything. And after a while he said, okay, let's go ahead. So on the way, they saw a deer with his 2 children. He alayhi salam called one of the children of the deer to come to him. He alayhi salam then slaughtered and roasted it, and both of them ate it together. After they finished eating, he alayhi salam collected the bones of the fawn and said, Qum bi'ithnillah, meaning rise from the dead by the command of Allah Azza wa Jal. In no time, the dead fawn stood up and returned to its mother running. Thereafter, he alayhi salam, he said to the man, I make you swear to Allah Azza wa Jal, who has empowered me to show this miracle. Tell me the truth. Where is that 3rd piece of bread? The man again lied, I do not know. He alayhi salam said, okay, let's move ahead. And as they walked further, they reached a river where he alayhi salam held that man's hand and continued to walk on the river until they crossed the river and reached the other side. There, meaning they walked to water. Thereafter, he alayhi salam said to the man, I make you swear to Allah Azza wa Jal, who has empowered me to show this miracle. Tell the truth. Where is that 3rd piece of bread? The man again lied, I do not know. He alayhi salam said, okay then, let's move further ahead. As they walked further, they reached a desert where Prophet Isa alayhi salam piled up some sand and addressed it. O pile of sand, turn into gold by the command of Allah Azza wa Jal. And immediately the sand turned into gold. And then Isa alayhi salam, he divided the gold into 3 parts and said, one part is mine because I had one part of the bread, the other is yours because you had one part of the bread, and the third one is for the person who's taken the third piece of bread. And upon the hearing this, the man immediately said, O Prophet of Allah Azza wa Jal, it was me who taken the third piece of bread. It was me. Hearing this, Isa alayhi salam said, fine, you take the third piece of gold. And then he left the man behind with his 2 pieces of gold. Now, wrapping the gold into a shawl, into like a bag, the man moved ahead. On the way, he came across 2 other men. As these 2 people noticed the man had gold, they intended to kill him, but he managed to prevent them to do so by suggesting the gold be divided into 3 parts and distributed amongst them equally. This seemed to justify and satisfy the other people, and they thought of an idea to get some food, spend the money, the gold, and get some food, inshallah. So the men, the 3 men, they thought distribute the gold, and then because they were excited that we've got this much gold, might as well spend the gold on some food, let's get a lavish meal together. So they agreed that one of them goes buy the food, but overpowered by their greed, they thought of a plan to kill the person who's gone to get the food so they could split the gold between just the 2 of them. But that one person who went for the food, he was also overpowered by greed, and he thought to himself, if I get the food, I can poison it and kill them too, and then run off with the gold. So both parties made a plan equally to try and kill the other so that they could steal the gold. Allah, love for wealth. So then, when the man returned, both men, they murdered him brutally, smashed his head in with rocks, and then he died. So now there's 2 people and 2 pieces of gold, share it equally. But then what happened is, they started eating the food out of celebration, but that had already been poisoned. So now the food's been poisoned, they've eaten it, and them 2 died a horrible death as well. So now all 3 people are now lying there dead, and just the 2 pieces of gold, they're still there. They're still there, no one to claim them. And when Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he returned and he saw them with his companions, he alayhi salam pointed to the gold which were next to the bodies of the 3 men and said, see, this is the reality of the world. It is obligatory for you to stay away from it. That's a lesson from this story. Men, they chase the world, they chase dunya, again, in a wrong way this time, as I mentioned. In the way that is impermissible for a believer, for anyone to go after the world. They're going after riches and wealth just for the riches and wealth, for the sake of it. Not for the pleasure of Allah, where they'll spend it on the poor, help the people. So, Isa alayhi salam gave us this message to stay away from it. And Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, he has a certain commentary on this story, and he arises some issues from it. That number 1, Sayyidina Hassan al-Basri rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi stated, by Allah Azza wa Jal, whoever respects wealth is disgraced by Allah Azza wa Jal. Number 2, it's a narration that when the first dinar and dirham, coins of gold and silver back in the day, were made, the shaitan picked them up, the devil picked them up, put them on his forehead and kissed them. He then said, whoever loves these is my slave. That's the status of a person who goes after wealth and goes after this world. Love for the world, love for wealth. That's the status of a person. We seek Allah's refuge from this. Sayyidina Samit bin Ijlan rahmatullahi ta'ala has stated, the dinar and dirham are the reins of the hypocrites whereby they will be dragged towards hell. Number 4, Sayyidina Yahya bin Mu'adh radiallahu ta'ala has stated, the dirham or wealth is a scorpion. If you do not know how to cure its sting, you should not catch it. Because if it bites you, its poison will kill you. When asked as to what the cure was, he radiallahu ta'ala replied, to earn money by halal means and spend on what is wajib upon you to spend. And number 5, Sheikh Sayyidina Ala bin Ziyad rahmatullahi ta'ala has stated, the world came to me in a beautiful and attractive form. I said, I ask refuge of Allah from your evil. He replied, if you want to protect yourself from me, you must hate wealth as it is by wealth that man enjoys all kinds of worldly comforts. One avoiding wealth may be able to stay away from this world. Sayyidina Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi quoted some Arabic couplets, and the translation is as follows: I found the secret, and you should not also think about anything else. Do not assume that piety is earning wealth. When you have foregone wealth, though you could have taken it, then your piety will be considered the piety of a Muslim. Meaning that your piety will be considered the piety of a Muslim. When someone will give you wealth, a lot of wealth, but you'll say, no, this wealth could be the destruction of me. Because this is what Isa warned me about. This is what Rasulullah warned me about. Stay away from this. Do not be impressed and deceived by the patches on someone's long shirt, or with their pajama above their ankles, or with the mark of prostration on their forehead. Instead, see if they love worldly wealth, or if they stay away from it. That's the judge, or the person that Imam Ghazali said. That's how important it is that we stay away from the horrible, horrible wealth of this world and the love for this world. Now, I'm going to show, there's a story here about the reality of the dunya, about how it changes forms. We may not realize it, but it changes forms, and it's not something that is constant. And if something changes forms and is not constant, then how can we rely on it? So we should stay away from the love of the dunya. Sayyidina Khidr alayhi salam used to make regular visits to a young devotee of Allah who was from the Bani Israel. The king heard of this, and he told the young devotee of Allah that he wanted to see the Prophet Khidr alayhi salam the next time he came. Otherwise, the king would kill him. So when this young man next saw Khidr alayhi salam, he told him all about the threat he received from the king. Khidr alayhi salam then took the young devotee with him to the king's palace. The king asked, "Are you Khidr alayhi salam?" The Prophet alayhi salam replied, "Yes, I am Khidr alayhi salam." The king then asked Khidr alayhi salam to tell him a strange story. Any strange story. Khidr alayhi salam told the king that he saw many strange and wonderful things in his life, but I wish to tell you this story. Once I was in a very big and beautiful city. I asked the native of the city, how long has this city been in existence? The native told me that he did not know himself how long the city was there for, how long it had been standing, and his forefathers didn't know how long it was standing. So after 500 years, Khidr alayhi salam, he came back to the same place. But this time, there was no city. It was only a jungle. There was only a jungle in front of him. And he was thinking, what's going on here? So he asked one of the natives, what happened here? There used to be a city. And the man laughed at him and said, there's never been a city here. There's only been jungle, and all my forefathers know, there's only been a jungle here. There's only been jungle here. What are you speaking of? So Khidr alayhi salam accepted this, and it was a jungle in the exact same place. And then he went away. And then after another 500 years, Khidr alayhi salam, he came back to the same place, except this time there was no jungle. So we went from city to a jungle, and now it's just a river, a massive river. And Khidr alayhi salam, he finds someone who's fishing and asks him, what happened to the jungle? What happened to the jungle that was here 500 years ago? The man replied, jungle? There's only been a river here, and all my forefathers all they know there's a river here. Only been a river. So then Khidr alayhi salam took his answer and went away. Then after a further 500 years, Khidr alayhi salam, he came back again. And all this time he saw was a desert, a completely dry desert. And Khidr alayhi salam, he asked one of the passing by people, what happened to the river? When did it dry up? And the native replied, there's never been a river here. It's just been a desert this whole time. Even my forefathers said it was a desert. They believe it was only a desert. So Khidr alayhi salam, he took this answer and went away. And then he came back finally for another 500 years, after another 500 years. And now he saw a city even bigger and more beautiful than the one that we talked about in the first place. And Khidr alayhi salam asked one of the people of the city, when was this city built? When was the desert built upon? And the natives, they replied, the city's always been here. It's never moved. What are you talking about? Our forefathers, they were from this city. We've all lived in the city. There's not been nothing else. There's never been a desert. And Khizr alayhi salam then took this answer and he went away. So the moral of this story is that this world, everything is an illusion. Look how quickly, okay, 500 years is a long time for us, but look how quickly the same place it changed 6 times. 6 times it changed. That is the illusion of the dunya, of this world. It may seem that it's very pleasant at sometimes, there was a nice city, there was a nice jungle, there was a nice river, then okay, maybe a dry desert, and then at the end a very beautiful city. But it soon changed by a natural disaster, by a flood which caused the river, by an earthquake which may have caused the desert, etc. The world is not ours to keep, but only to live on. Remember that. The world is not ours to keep. We do not live here for long. We live here as a traveller. For example, I'm sure you've heard all the stories many times. If someone went to London, for example, on a job, everyone uses this example. You went to London on a job from here, and you don't know when you're going to come back. You could be called back anytime by your boss, say, oh yeah, you need to come back, the job's finished. So you go to London, what would your mindset be? Your mindset would be, tomorrow I could be called back. Maybe 5 years time, but tomorrow I could be called back. So you've rented a place. You're not going to buy a house, you're not going to buy a mansion. You've just rented a place. And you're just going to start buying food for maybe a day, 2 days, maybe a week max. You're not going to start buying a Lamborghini to spend there. You're not going to buy a massive garage. You're not going to start spending money on food for 4, 5, 2 months. You're just going to keep what's necessary for the next bits coming along. And this is how we should live our lives in this world. We do not know when Allah will take us back. We do not know when. It could happen tomorrow, it could happen the next day, it could happen 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. But we do not know when. So the same way as we would live in London if we travelled there, we should live here as well. This is how we should live, as a traveller. As a traveller in this dunya, because that's all we are. Nothing else. Keep things simple is the moral as well. Keep things simple. There's no need for this extravagant spending. People have, look, even I have affinity with good cars. I have an affinity with good cars. Ferrari is technically my favourite, yeah? But I know there's no point in buying one. What is the point of lavishing that spending money so lavishly, and when I could use it in so much better purposes to help my hereafter? Instead of spending £450,000 on a Ferrari, build a new masjid. Spend that money, give it to a charity. Who knows how much you could help, how many people you could help. Sallu ala al-Habib. There's no point going after wealth. From the stories I mentioned of Isa alayhi salam, there's absolutely no point. Because the wealth will still be there, but technically it'll be mocking you. Because it will be there, but you won't be. You will have been destroyed by this world. You've been destroyed by your love for this world. So it's very important we remember the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We follow the commandments of Allah Azza wa Jal and what He's commanded us to do. And we follow the examples of our pious predecessors. Again, like I mentioned, we'll also have no wealth. Didn't eat any food, didn't drink any water, but that's going to the extremes where the awliya can go. We can't do that. We can't go a year without eating or drinking. But we can try our best. And it's not even just stay away from eating and drinking. Stay away from lavish spending. Stay away from things that will harm you in this life and harm you hereafter. Why would you do something that harms you here and harms you there? It defies logic. But people fall into the trap. They fall into the trap which they should not fall in. So the message here today is stay away from loving this dunya more than you should. There is 2 ways to love this dunya, permissible and impermissible. In summary, love the world by spending your money that you have in the way of Allah. Hate the world because if you gain too much wealth, there is that chance that you deviate from the path of Allah Azza wa Jal. And if you deviate from the path of Allah Azza wa Jal, what's left for you? What's left for you? Nothing but ruin and hellfire. So I do dua that Allah Azza wa Jal keep us safe